Come in.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order today's meeting, September 25th, 2023. Roll call, Kate?
Kathleen Amaral,
Here.
Chris Oliver,
Here.
Elizabeth Coughlin. Here. John Nunes.
Yep.
Shannon Jenkins.
Thank you. Shannon's unable to make it today. So I now ask that you stand, if able, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We begin each meeting with public comments. We've allotted 10 minutes for public comment from the audience on any topic on the evening's agenda. So if you are so inclined, please step up to the podium and just make sure that you state your name before you provide comment. Great. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes. We have the approval of the regular session minutes for September 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will abstain.
One abstention. And I'm going to turn it over to
Great.
Dr. Saba McGuire.
Wonderful. So we are incredibly excited to have Annabelle Johnson here with us this evening as our student representative. And I'm going to ask Mr. Shea, the high school principal, to come up and tell us a little bit about Annabelle. And then I think she wants to tell us a little bit more about herself. Thank you.
But Annabelle is an active member in our band. She's a section leader. When asked, described by her instructors, what is she's kind and always takes care of every member of her section like a mother hen. So I thought that was really sweet in how they described it and made sure her crew stayed really well together. Annabelle's advisor, Miss O'Neill, describes her as like a compassionate student and is really excited that she's taken this step out and risk to really represent the school. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to step out of my comfort zone and try something new and be able to do something that hasn't been done before. Last year we kind of had like a trial error and run for the student advisory committee, and we didn't really get to do much because we kind of had to like work our way through and figure out what we're going to be doing. And so this year we kind of get to actually be more active and involved in the school. And I'm just very excited to be able to like be one of the first people to do that.
Well, I can tell you that we've heard wonderful things about you, and we're very fortunate to have you sitting here with
Thank
us
you.
this evening. Thank you for being here. I'm excited about watching you in the band.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My colleagues have
No, just
welcome.
welcome. What instrument do you play? I turned them.
I'm in the pit, so I play the marimba.
In the
Yeah.
marimbas. Okay.
Just welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome.
Yeah, nothing better than stepping out of your comfort zone to experience something and you get a little taste of what it's like.
Can I just add, student voice is incredibly important, and so we will be looking to you and the Student Advisory Committee to help us as a committee, as a superintendent, and other folks in the school system to think about the decisions that we're making. So your voice matters, and we're truly happy to have you here with us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Excellent. So I don't know if we also additionally, like, we want you to stay and experience the whole time, but if ever you feel compelled to, you know, you have something at home that in timely needs to get done, we don't want it to be a burden, but we're really thrilled for you to want to experience this. But we do look forward to your reports and what you have to share on behalf of the students of the high school. So thank you. Great. So next I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Saba McGuire, for our consent agenda.
Yep, so we have a couple of fundraising requests, one from the Potter PTO and one from the Quinn PTO. I just want to add that I attended the Potter PTO meeting last week, and I have to say that I was very impressed with the turnout. There's obviously a lot of family involvement at the Potter School. I'm looking at one of the moms that were there last week, and I have to say they were so welcoming to me, and I can tell there's really a great effort at that school to do things for kids and for teachers and to support the school well. I haven't yet been to the Quinn, but to the PTO, I've been to the Quinn plenty of times and see the same kind of commitment, but not yet to the PTO. So I'm looking forward to visiting all of the PTOs across the community. But my experience at the PTO at the Potter was wonderful. And so we have two fundraising requests, and we have, I see Mr. Porter. How'd I do? From the Potter. I've renamed him Mr. Potter from the Porter, so can't do that. And then I also see that we have Audra Thomas here from the Quinn to answer any questions that you might have about the fundraising efforts.
Great.
Motion to approve both items, both Potter and Quinn Elementary PTO requests.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll just add thank you to both PTOs and for those parents and teachers that volunteer for these committees. We know it takes up a lot of time, but it's certainly a worthwhile endeavor, and it helps to subsidize a lot of the programs in our schools, especially Quinn and Potter, we see here this evening. So thank you.
Thank you. I couldn't have said that any better. So with that said, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you for stopping by and the, great effort by all, so thank you. Next, I'm going to turn it to
I
you
know
again
that
for the new
this
teachers.
could be the highlight of our evening
Yes.
here. We're welcoming and introducing our new educators in the Dartmouth Public Schools. And I just want to say that I met most of the folks individually throughout the course of the summer, but I know a few were hired before I came on board, so I'm excited to hear about all of you, and I'm inviting Ross Tebow and Katie Paveo. How'd I do, Katie, on Paveo? I'm doing so much better on pronouncing names. And they're going to go over what Project Time is, and I just want to say I've seen a lot of great work happening with mentoring and the introduction of new faculty into the Dartmouth Public Schools. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Saban-McGuire, and thank you to the school committee. Mrs. Paveo and I are excited to talk a little bit about our Project Time and all of the important work that goes into it, so we'll jump right into it.
So Project Time actually is an acronym that stands for Teacher Induction Mentoring Experience. It is an induction program that's designed to support our new educators as we welcome them to Dartmouth. Each new educator that's hired is paired with a mentor that they work with throughout their first years. They get acclimated to Dartmouth Public Schools, to the school buildings that they're in, knowing that some of our new educators are not new to the profession, but certainly new to our district. So we try to make an effort to, teach them the sort of ways that we do things and sort of just welcome them into their schools and help them to know the sort of day-to-day things that might be specific to their building or to their role. Educators who are new to the profession, who do not hold a professional license, continue on in a second year of mentoring with their mentor, and they do 50 hours of mentoring beyond their induction year.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about why Project Time is so important. And in a nutshell, it's because we recognize that the profession has changed over the last 2 decades, certainly. We see a lot more mobility within our profession, and really talented educators can go anywhere. There's a shortage of teachers. And so it's not only enough to recruit the most talented educators, but we have to retain them as well. And that's really what Project Time is all about. It's about supporting our new educators so that we can retain them. And one of the things that Dartmouth Public Schools should certainly be proud of is that we do have a 92.4% retention rate most recently. And to put that in perspective, the state's was 84.6. So we are, through the hard work of Mrs. Duar and Mrs. Tavares, who Mrs. Pavea will talk a little bit about their role in Project Time through their hard work, and certainly the hard work of all of our mentors who step up to support our new teachers. We're doing a very good job in terms of retaining our educators once we are able to recruit them here to Dartmouth.
So a little of the logistical things on how Project Time is structured. So we have highly effective trained educators who volunteer to serve as mentors for our newly hired educators. They do receive a stipend to do that work. They are trained through a mentoring program. Either we've run them in-house, sometimes they can go out and do them out in other places, but they are trained to do mentoring. And then we pair them with a mentee or two sometimes, depending on the field. We do try to get someone in the field so it's a match. The ideal is when you have someone who does your same job in your same building, but we know that that's not always the case because we have educators who are the only person in their building who perhaps will do their job. So we try to make sure that sometimes if they are in a department where we know that they can get support through their department work, might pair them up with someone in their building to really do that sort of day-to-day logistical work that I talked about. And you'll see that with some of our mentors, it might not be someone in their field, but someone that they work with day to day, and they get that other support. So the mentor-mentee relationships really are designed to go beyond just the year of mentoring, right? This becomes this person that you can go to, right? I remember being very young and brand new and going like, I don't even know where the copy machine is, right? And that mentor becomes the person who can help you with not only where the copy machine is, but where do you get the extra paper when it runs out? Because that's the real question sometimes, right? And that's the real holdup for you. I would be remiss if I didn't really acknowledge the two people who make sure that this is happening on a monthly, and really this is a year-long process, and that's Mrs. Janine Tavares, who couldn't be here tonight, but Mrs. Kelly Duart, who I would like to ask just to come up and say hello, just so we can introduce her, or reintroduce her to you, and acknowledge the hard work that she does with our mentors. So they meet regularly throughout the year on a myriad of topics. They also do 2 induction days in the summer where we really kind of get them in and throw a lot of information at them. But we really are grateful to Kelly and Janine for all the hard work that they do. And we truly couldn't do this without them. So thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
So Kelly and Janine and Ross and I, we meet collaboratively throughout the year to really make sure that we're hitting the mark with what our educators need, but also meeting the requirements. Having a mentoring and induction program is a requirement from the state, so we need to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do on our end, but also making it a useful and effective use of time for our educators.
So the role of the mentor, as Katie said, we do our best to try and match them in job-alike partnerships. That's not always the case, but regardless, the real role of the mentor is just to be a confidant, a sounding board, someone who, as Katie said, knows kind of the way things are done here in Dartmouth and can help our new educators get acclimated to the Dartmouth Public Schools way of doing things. You're going to hear us quick bios for each of our new hires. You're going to see that we have a very talented pool of new educators who come to us with a lot of experience. And so that's a fortunate piece of Dartmouth Public Schools, is that we're able to attract experienced educators who know the profession. So really this is much more, in most cases, a role of kind of, here's how we do in Dartmouth, and helping them make that adjustment.
So without further ado, we're really not the people you're here to see. So we are going to ask our mentors and mentees to come up in pairs, and then mentors, mentees, once we introduce you, we're going to ask you to stand off to the side so we can get a good photo op of you with the school committee when you're done. So I would first like to ask Haley Perry to join us up here. So Haley is joining our pre-K staff at the Cushman School to work with our littlest learners. And what I believe you'll come to find is a consistent theme tonight. Haley is one of our homegrown educators, having grown up and attended school in Dartmouth. She is working towards obtaining her master's degree in moderate disabilities, where she'll put to test her favorite saying, "You can do hard things." In her free time, Haley enjoys reading, and her favorite thing about working in Dartmouth Public Schools is the support she's received from colleagues. Haley will be mentored by her co-pre-K teacher, Christine Festori. Welcome, Haley.
Welcome, Haley. If you want to just go stand right near that shelf over there. Thank you.
I'm going to read the bio of our next person who was unable to be with us tonight, but that is Michelle Boulette. Michelle is joining our special education department as a special education teacher, also at the Cushman School. She's another example of Dartmouth Public Schools grads coming back home to give to their community. One of the things she loves most about teaching is making a difference in the lives of children and their families. And Michelle's own long-term goal is to always strive to be her best and never stop learning. She likes to travel in her free time, and her favorite saying is, "Everything happens for a reason." She is appreciative of how helpful and friendly everyone has been as she's settled into her new role. She's being mentored by instructional coach Lori O'Neill. Up next, I'll introduce you to Matthew Beauparland. Matt is a physical education and wellness teacher and will be assisting with adaptive PE at both the Cushman and Quinn schools. You guessed it, Matt is another of our homegrown Dartmouth educators, having grown up and attended school here in our community. He has a bachelor's degree from Bridgewater State University and looks forward to obtaining his master's degree as he continues to grow as an educator. If Matt could have dinner with anyone, it would be Tom Brady, to which I would certainly ask to tag along. In his free time, Matt likes to golf. His favorite saying is, "Nothing worth having comes easy." And what he has already come to love about working in Dartmouth Public Schools is the sense of community he's experienced between all buildings and staff. Matt is being mentored by co-PE teacher Paul Paveo. Welcome, Matt. So mentors, you can come up with your mentees as well, Mr. Paveo. So you can join your mentee over there. Up next, I'd like to introduce Olivia Carrero. Olivia is our newest English as a second language teacher, and she will be working at the Potter School. Olivia is from Westport and holds degrees from both St. Lawrence University and UMass Amherst. One thing that she's proud of having achieved in her career is collaborating with her colleagues in her former district to write and earn a $20,000 grant through the Symetra Heroes in the Classroom. When she's not teaching, Olivia enjoys doing things outside, with her current favorite being surfing, which I would imagine has come in very handy the last few days. Though new to the district, Olivia loves that she's heard nothing but positive things from current and former employees, finding that refreshing and speaking to the DPS culture and community. Olivia will be mentored by second grade teacher Melissa Lawrence. Welcome, Olivia. And finally, at the elementary level, we welcome Julia Hoyle. Julia is an occupational therapist who will be working at the Quinn School. She comes to us from Fairhaven and holds a Master's of Science in Occupational Therapy from American International College. Julia likes to spend free time with family, golfing, and practicing yoga, and her favorite saying is, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind." What Julia has already come to love about Dartmouth Public Schools is the supportive and welcoming work environment that she has found here. She will be mentored by co-occupational therapist Corey Diaz. Welcome, Julia.
At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Tyler Tavares. Mr. Tavares is a resident of Dartmouth and a graduate of the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, who is currently working toward completing his master's degree. Tyler, like many of the folks we've been introducing tonight, is new to Dartmouth, but not new to the profession. Tyler has several years of experience, having taught for 8 years in the Fall River School District prior to coming home to Dartmouth. Mr. Tavares is being mentored by veteran PE teacher, Mr. Paul Paveo, and will be serving as a physical education and health teacher at Dartmouth Middle School. Welcome, Tyler. Joining Tyler at Dartmouth Middle School is Mr. Connor Tavares, Tyler's brother. Connor also grew up here in Dartmouth and is a graduate of Bridgewater State University. Connor is joining the Dartmouth Public Schools as an ELA and social studies teacher and is being mentored by ELA and social studies teacher Ms. Annie Laurie Jacob. Connor, like his brother, noted that the highlight of working in Dartmouth Public Schools is having the opportunity to work in the community he grew up in, and having the ability to make an impact is the most rewarding aspect of working here in the Dartmouth Public Schools. Welcome, Connor. Next up, it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Sarah Mitchell. Sarah, like several of the educators we've heard about already tonight, is actually not new to the profession and has taught English for nearly a decade at Durfee High School. Sarah, again, like many of our new hires, is proud to call Dartmouth her hometown. Sarah completed her undergraduate work at Bridgewater State University and earned her master's degree, was it just 5 days before your son was born? All right, so earned her master's degree from the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. Sarah is being mentored by ELA lead teacher and instructional coach, Mr. Wilbur Higgins. Mr. Higgins, unfortunately, could not join us the evening because he's teaching a course over at UMass Dartmouth. But we are thrilled to welcome Sarah. Joining the Business Innovation and Technology Department at Dartmouth High School is Ms. Bridget Weinart as a computer science teacher. Bridget, unlike her colleagues, is new to the profession as she's transitioning from the private sector into public education, though there is certainly a strong connection between her work in developing a cutting-edge leadership development program for new professionals in the tech industry and her new role as a computer science teacher. Bridget earned her Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and Biophysics from RPI and her MBA from Northeastern University. Bridget is being mentored by Mr. Doug Smith, who was here earlier but had to get home to take care of his children. But Mr. Smith is proud to be serving as Bridget's mentor, and we're excited to welcome Bridget. You're welcome. Also joining Dartmouth High School this year is mathematics teacher Mr. Mark Rossi. Again, not new to the profession by any means, with many years of teaching experience at New Bedford High School. Mark has his master's in education and is currently working toward earning an advanced degree in school leadership with a long-term goal and interest of one day becoming a building principal. Mark shouldn't be a new face in the community as he resides here in town and has served the past season as the varsity lacrosse coach, and before that as the varsity ice hockey coach. Mark is being mentored by veteran mathematics teacher, Ms. Deb August. Welcome, Mark. At this time, it's my honor and privilege to welcome Ms. Jennifer Cusson, who is not new to the profession nor new to Dartmouth, but has transitioned to the role of special education teacher. Ms. Cusson joined us, I think it was 4 years ago, as an ESP here at Dartmouth High School. And so prior to that, prior to becoming an educator, Jen had a first career as a nurse. And as someone who's been fortunate to work with Jen in my previous capacity as the principal here at Dartmouth High School, I can confidently share that Jennifer is a caring, compassionate educator who puts the needs of her students first. And it's in that same spirit and mindset that make her such an asset to our school community. Jennifer currently has her Bachelor's of Science in Nursing and is working toward her master's degree in education. Jennifer is being mentored by a special education teacher, Ms. Ashley Coker-Pierpont. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And finally, for me this evening, it's my pleasure to welcome Ms. Cassie Levesque, who is joining the Dartmouth High School Counseling Department as a school guidance counselor. Cassie has 11 years of experience working to support children for the Department of Child and Family Services. Cassie holds an associate's degree in elementary education and a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, and is currently enrolled in a Master's of Social Work program. Ms. Levesque is a team player whose favorite motto is "one team, one dream." So Ms. Levesque shared that she's excited to be continuing her career working in the community where she lives and attended school. Cassie is in great hands as she'll be mentored by Ms. Kathy David Thomas. Welcome, Cassie.
Thank you. I will wrap up and talk about a couple of district level positions that we have. First, I don't believe either of them are here, but I will introduce Carrie Crane. Carrie is a physical therapist who will be joining us just one day per week at the Potter and Cushman schools. Carrie holds degrees from Duke, University of Colorado Health Sciences Center, and Regis University. She has extensive experience across settings, most recently in Johnston, Rhode Island. Carrie lived in Colorado for several years, where she was also heavily involved with Special Olympics. She will be mentored by occupational therapist Corey Diaz. So we welcome Carrie. And finally, I would like to introduce to you Anna Zembo. Anna is a speech and language pathologist who is joining the Cushman School staff. Anna joins us from Westport and holds degrees from both Emerson College and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Something that Anna is proud of in her career is teaching and mentoring graduate students in her field of speech and language pathology at Emerson College. When she's not working, she enjoys practicing yoga and knitting, and her favorite saying is, "It's never too late to start the day over." Something that Anna loves about working in the Dartmouth Public Schools is how energetic the staff is about providing the best quality education possible to students. She will be mentored by her SLP colleague, Marianne Sorensen. So we welcome Anna. And so, I think we're going to ask members of the school committee to join our new mentors and maybe have you guys squish together a little bit, do a double row, or maybe wrap around the school committee. You want to do it that way? Why don't you guys go around them? Yeah, you guys can stay. You can stay put. They'll come to you.
Yeah, it's probably best.
There you go.
All right. You want to give the countdown?
No.
All right.
All right, hang
Thank
on, hang on.
you.
Is he all set?
Yeah.
You're all set?
Yes.
Unicorn picture, and I still have it in my classroom.
Seriously. Yeah. Nice to see you. Thank you.
I don't know if they're gonna, let's see what they do. Oh, they're all walking. Get the
Oh, they're-
We didn't have to tell them.
We didn't have to.
Get the swivel, the
They know
wheels,
what
the
to
one that leans back, you know? The footrest that comes up, you know?
Well, that was wonderful.
That was wonderful.
Okay.
Excellent. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it seems like a great group of hirees. Nice to see that a lot of them are coming back to their roots in Dartmouth, and I wish they were still here just to compliment them and
Wish 'em
share.
good luck.
Yeah, wish
Wish
them
'em
the
good
best
luck.
of luck.
We'll have to think about the order of our photo next time. I didn't know they knew they could leave right away. They were like
Right.
one step way ahead of us. I mean, we were about to say, please leave, but we wanted to give you a chance to talk to them.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's all good.
All good.
We can still say nice things about them.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
I don't know if you heard me. I was talking to one of the teachers who's not a new teacher, but I let her know. Hearing her name, she was one of my oldest favorite teachers, and she an after-school program years ago was actually about makeup, and she took that after-school program, and I let her know my daughter's went to cosmetology, and
Wonderful.
yeah, so it was just really nice. And she said she has a painting that my daughter did years ago for her in her classroom. So it just speaks to just the impact that
And if I could just,
educators
if
can
I could
have.
just add, even though the school leaders already snuck out a few of them, but I mean, credit to the school leaders, right? They've really worked hard to recruit people, and that's one of the most important jobs our school-based leaders have, are hiring the folks that are working directly with kids. So I think that, again, a credit to them. And I've had the opportunity to meet with just about every one of the candidates individually, and I have to say I was really impressed. And I think that's important to note, because we hope a lot of these folks are going to be with you with Dartmouth for 30 years. I mean, that's the hope. You want people to stay with you. So I was really happy to hear Ross share that statistic about 92.4% retention. That is critical. You're making an investment in people.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
just to piggyback on what Dr. Saber McGuire said, when you were talking the first day of school with the teachers and you had them, the stand up, the new ones, the 5-year, 10-year, there was a number that were 30, 35, 40 years that have been here still. So that,
That's awesome
it's
to
a
see.
credit
Yeah,
type of deal. So, yeah, we look forward to those.
yeah. Yeah, I love that you
And
did
just
that.
thank
Go
one
ahead.
more time just the food services folks who
Amazing.
provided the refreshments for the reception. It was really wonderful. And I
wonderful.
think welcoming for the people, knowing that you honor them in that way to celebrate them. And I think that was really clear tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Excellent. Anyone else?
No.
No. Great. All right. So I'm going to actually turn it back over to Dr. Saber McGuire for old business, which is the Mr. Kiley.
Right. So, and that's the good news for me. I get to turn it over to Mr. Kiley. So if you remember at our last school committee meeting, we did a brief overview of what the subcommittee had worked on with Mr. Kiley, and he's going to, I think, provide us with some follow-up that will help shape our work moving forward. So, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Dr. Saber McGuire. So this might be a little repetitive based on your discussion last time, but I think it's important that we keep this at the forefront of our discussions moving forward. So I prepared a brief presentation that summarizes the results of our Fields and Facilities Subcommittee meeting from August 29th, and hopefully provides us a starting point for some discussion about long-term capital planning moving forward with the whole school committee. So, as a reminder, these are the ages of the years that our current facilities were built. So from 1922 to 2002. The average age being 64 years old. And if you take the high school out of that equation, 72. We've talked about this before, but our buildings aren't getting any younger, and they require a significant investment to maintain them so that we can ensure, continued use. But even with that significant investment, they won't last forever. So it's important to plan. So the Massachusetts School Building Authority in 2016 conducted a statewide survey of every school building in Massachusetts. 1,695 buildings were reviewed, and there were 269 that were rated a 3 or a 4, being the worst of the buildings. Our middle school was one of those. Of the 128 projects that the MSBA has funded since that 2016 study, it seems that there's a bit of a variety as to where they fall on the rating scale. It's for sure the condition of the buildings is a factor. It's not the only factor. It appears that ability for a community to undertake a project, the desire of a community to undertake a project, and whether or not communities have done large-scale projects before with the MSBA, tends to influence MSBA's decisions as to what they will fund. So if it appears that they want to spread the wealth around, just so happens that we've never done an MSBA project that is a new building or a major renovation. This current high school was done under the old Department of Ed
SBA.
model, which they immediately stopped doing after. We were one of the last projects. So it appears that we could be a candidate for an MSBA project down the road. We certainly have debt capacity in the community to fund a project that would, a major project. I think MSBA would have certainly done another statewide survey, but it probably would have been in 2019 or more likely in 2020 when the pandemic sort of put a stop to that. So I would expect that they'll probably do one in the next couple of years, but I wouldn't think that, certainly I would say that our facilities would only, while we've done good things to them to string them along, we'll only be getting, worse on the scale. One of the other things that we've done in terms of some long-term planning, in 2017, the architects SMMA did a facilities plan for us. And there's some merit to that plan. There's some relevancy. The cost factors are totally gone and irrelevant at this point. So they don't really provide much information. But one of the conclusions, their primary conclusion, was to close the Cushman School. That was kind of low-hanging fruit, easy type conclusion to come to. I think one of the limitations of that study, though, was that it would have required multiple MSBA projects over a number of years to accomplish any significant change to the district. I think the likelihood of stringing those projects together, getting all the approvals necessary from MSBA and the town is pretty slim. So I don't think it provided much of a roadmap for us, which is a little unfortunate, but we'll talk a little more about that in some upcoming slides. The other weakness in that study was that it did nothing to address our worst building, which was the middle school. It talked about it being a future project to prioritize, okay? But it didn't prioritize it. So, we'll again talk about that in a moment. The other long-term capital planning piece that we've been undertaking is the newly formed group that the town has put together, focusing on long-term needs, looking at a 40-year window. I thought it was going to be 30 years, but it turns out we're looking more like 40-year window of projects. And I think that it's an exciting opportunity for us to be a part of that discussion and begin to make the town aware of what is going to be necessary in the upcoming years. So I put together some goals. These are sort of draft goals, and really, our purpose tonight being getting the conversation started with the school committee. These are flexible, but I think they're broad goals that most everyone could agree on, to provide an effective and appropriate learning environment for all students. That is at the forefront of everything we do every day. Certainly facilities-wise and long-term capital planning-wise, that will be one of the things that drives us. To replace our aging buildings in a strategic way that can be supported by the community. So if we're talking about doing, 4 projects that are stacked up over a number of, a relatively short number of years, like the SMMA report, one of the suggestions was, I'm not sure that is exactly, in the direction of this goal. So something to think about. Impact a broad cross-section of the community. I think for us to accomplish something and to get support in the community, we really need to focus on impacting the most students. And so looking at One elementary school that was built in 1955 may not be the answer for the community. So again, we can talk more about that. And then increase opportunities for early childhood education. I think we've known that this is an issue in the community. We've talked a lot about it through the years. We had to increase a preschool classroom this past year because we had enrollment that required it. I don't think that's going to get any less. It appears that following the pandemic, there's more and more needs that need to be met. And we certainly want to provide those needs. So we've got to think about that and how that fits with our long-term plans. So there's a lot of ways to tackle the problems we have because we have a lot of problems. One thing that we talked about in subcommittee that I think is a very viable option and has a lot of merit is to look at something like this. Now, this is just for discussion purposes. Replace the high school roof. We know we need to do that. That's got to happen. Obviously, this building is going nowhere. We need this building. The community needs this building. And so to preserve that, whenever the Mass School Building Authority opens their window for repair projects, what they call their accelerated repair cycle, we will be there for that. I think I will, as soon as we hear that it's going to be open, which it wasn't at all last year because of inflationary construction prices on their other projects, we'll be ready. The second part of this is look at replacing the Dartmouth Middle School. And one thought that we think has a lot of merit for the community was to build a middle school on the existing site. There's some constraints on that site. We obviously wouldn't be building it on top of the existing middle school building. We'd be looking at the fields that are there and other spaces and finding a way to make a building fit onto that site, which poses some challenges. But in doing that, we really feel like the community would benefit most by looking at not building a middle school, but building a high school, a new Dartmouth High School. There's, this building was built finished in 2002. It is not the model high school that we would like. It is a good building. It's functional. We make it work. They ran out of money during construction of this building, and I think it shows. Again, just a proposal for discussion would be to build a new Dartmouth High School. The current Dartmouth High School, this building, could become a middle school. It could also house at least one extra grade, grade 5, which would then allow us to change our elementary structure from pre-K to 4, offer preschool throughout the town, as opposed to one classroom at the Potter School and all of the rest of the classrooms at Cushman School. It would also allow us to close the Cushman School, which I think is a conclusion of any result of any long-term planning, ultimately. And I think that overall, a plan like this has merit because it focuses on one major project that we could fund, and it would improve the educational experience for the entire district. So kids who are in middle school would have this building, which is much better than their existing middle school. Kids who are in high school would have a new state-of-the-art high school. Kids at the elementary level would have a different structure and, more space in those buildings that would, I think, certainly benefit us. It would provide additional opportunities for preschool education, as we talked about. It would also address our greatest area of need, which is the middle school. It would centralize Dartmouth High School in the community instead of being fairly far south. It would benefit, I think, the entire school community, all of our extracurricular activities, allow us to not have kids driving all over town to go to practice every day, with our stadium right there. The site that the middle school is on, the existing middle school building could be utilized to improve parking in that area, which is a major problem. For events that we have at the stadium now, parking is always a problem. We could rectify that with a plan like this. There's also additional space on that property. So the middle school and Quinn are actually one property. And there's more space that is unutilized at that location. So, I think that this would be something to consider. There are other things that we could do. We could tackle several elementary schools, or just do one at a time and approach it that way. But we like the idea of one project that improves the education of all kids. So, but that said, it doesn't mean that would solve all our problems. We would still need to look at replacement within that 40-year window of the Potter School, the DeMello School, the Quinn School. We still need to renovate Dartmouth Memorial Stadium, and most likely, within 40 years, would need to spend a significant investment on this building. If we were to not undertake any of these projects, or only undertake some, within that 40-year window, we're going to need to look at, in about 18 years, we're going to need to replace the Quinn School roof. 19 years, the DeMello and Cushman School roofs. 20 years, the Potter School roof. The middle school roof, hopefully 25-ish years. We're also going to need to replace windows and doors within 40 years in all of these buildings. HVAC, security, fire safety, technology, lots of things. So we need to understand that. We could do that all piecemeal and string these buildings along for quite a while, but I think we need to have a systematic, well-thought-out strategic approach to how we're going to accomplish something that will change this community for the better long-term. And so those things will have to be done in some form or fashion. So these things on this slide are really in no particular order. I think the first thing that we need to do as a school committee is make sure that we agree that building new facilities is a direction we want to head. It's not something that we've approached in my time here. I've been here a while. So it's a little different than our existing approach, which has been essentially to Band-Aid the buildings. We can only wait so long to continue to do that. And so I think the first step for the committee would be to consider a plan that includes a major project, or maybe more. And then we look at prioritizing so that we all agree what projects to target. Then there would be a process of, okay, we've got to do some homework on this. We've got to talk to MSBA. We've got to, prepare for what we'll ultimately have to present to the community and help build awareness for what our needs are. We'll also be participating in that the town's long-term capital planning group throughout that process. So I think this is a point to sort of start discussion and hopefully begin to get an idea of where the school committee wants to head on this. Because we're prepared to support you in whatever direction, you think is best.
Great. I had the opportunity, and my colleague, Mr. Nunes, to sort of work through the discussion of this at that subcommittee meeting. And speak for myself, I was quite excited at the possibility of the what was discussed around all of the reasons and the idea of building that new, the new building at the site of the middle school to be new high school, and this to be a new middle school, grades 5 through 8. And Dr. Saba McGuire, not to take your thoughts, but you had sort of talked about that, those formative years and having students be together for 4 years in that level, potential of so many benefits as well. But I would like to just turn it over to my colleagues to see their thoughts as they're processing this information and thinking through what it might mean.
Okay, I'll start. You want us to go first? You want me to?
It doesn't matter to me.
No, okay, I'll start. First and foremost, thank you very much for this, Jim. I know we kind of went through this and everything else. The first thing that comes to mind is I'm just wondering if we've got to get Senator Montigny and Representative Markey to start pushing MSBA, the State Treasurer's Office type of deal, to loosen the strings. I mean, I know there's a thing on the Fall River City Council tomorrow night for new windows for one of their schools. I'm not sure if it's an accelerated program, but it's MSBA is funding it, so that means there is some money available there. I think, and thank you for adding some of the things that we had talked about at the meeting, at our workshop, only because I think we have to do this just to keep it in front of everybody, so that they, it's not just, if you don't give us the buildings, here's the repairs we've got to do, and such. I do, as Kathleen said, we talked about, the 5 to 8 for a middle school type of deal. That opens up a lot of space in the other 3 schools that I think we can take care of. We're land poor. I said this at the last meeting. We're, not only are we facilities poor, but we're land poor type of deal as to where we can put, because I'm going to make an assumption that, the state, MSBA, Department of Ed, they've got, requirements as to what your schools, how much land you have to have, they're not going to let you put it on a postage stamp, as, I like to say. So we need to try to figure that out. And, would it work going in back, the track and such. Somewhere down the line, as the old saying goes, with, everything, if we don't do this and we're stuck having to, piecemeal these projects for the different schools together, as the old saying goes, at some point, we're going to run out of chewing gum and baling wire to keep them together. And, we're not going to be giving our students, the proper education and tools that they need to succeed in this world type of deal. So I appreciate this. I mean, I think I'll let my colleagues speak and then I'll come back.
Anyone else have any thoughts?
Okay. Well, thank you to my colleagues and to Mr. Kiley and Dr. Saban McGuire for putting this together. This is something that we certainly have been discussing for quite a while. It feels like it's been as long as I've been on this committee. So it's definitely needed. The time is now, I think. Regardless of what direction this committee decides to take, I'm curious as to like the time frame and the amount of capital that we have invested into the middle school, the Potter, Quinn, and DeMello schools, as far as roofs that they all fairly have roofs that are under 6 years old, 6, 7 years old now.
Well, no, so the first one we did, so 12 years ago, we finished the Quinn School roof.
That was the first one.
Then the following year, we did DeMello and Cushman. Then the following year, we did Potter. Then we had a couple of years off before we did the middle. So the middle is now 6 years old.
And how much did that roof cost, approximately?
It was, so the MSBA,
A total that versus reimbursement.
yeah, so I believe what I calculated was if we were to build a new building in the next few years, we would be potentially owe $1 million to the MSBA if they were to stick to
Sure.
their
formula.
Yeah, it would be depreciated, it would be almost depreciated in half by the time an actual project were undertaken, and I think we could potentially owe as much as $1 million to MSBA at that time.
So I'm kind of torn. Quite honestly, Potter and DeMello are abysmal, I think. I think you walk into those schools, and I think it's an embarrassment, and I think that we should be prioritizing, this is just my opinion, we should be prioritizing our elementary schools and turning them into 21st century learning environments. We have a beautiful high school right now, and we're going to turn around and we're going to build even a newer high school. I don't know how the public's going to take that. But I don't see any, I agree that we're land poor in this town, but I don't see any reason why we can't put renovations and expansions on the table instead of just demolition. I would like to see this committee and the school department explore those options, but I am having a hard time right now with demolishing the middle school, building a new high school, and moving the middle school here. And those are just my thoughts as we sit here today.
So I have not seen the MSBA 2016 survey. I think I should. I don't know, is that online or is that something that could be sent to me?
You can email it easy enough, but it is online on their website too.
On the MSBA website?
Mhm.
Okay, I will go there. So they're the ones that say that school should be replaced, correct?
Well, they don't say that.
They say that's the one that's in,
They had some inconsistencies in their survey, I will say, because Potter and DeMello had received 2 different ratings, and they were built the same exact time by the same architect and same contractor. So I'm not exactly sure how they came up with 2 different ratings, but they were both rated better than the middle school. I mean, the middle school was pieced together with a number of additions through the years, and I think, Mr. Oliver's right. Those other schools need to be replaced. I just think that
so does the middle school.
Right.
Right.
I think that's the problem we have, is that no projects have been done since the high school, and it's now more than 20 years, and the high school's paid for. There's no more debt on the high school, and we really need to be strategic, and we're, like I explained, we're certainly willing to explore all options. well, possible solutions. But yes, MSBA, based on the condition of the facility, rated the middle school the worst building that we have.
And Cushman, they rated,
Actually better than the middle school, which is odd.
yeah, so that's interesting to
yeah.
me. And that's the one that your plan is to close
Yeah.
in the reshuffling
It's the right thing.
because it's the oldest.
Because it's the oldest, it's not a high, it's not the building that you would want for, as a early childhood. The classrooms are very small.
How many classrooms are there?
Right now, we have 10 that are occupied as, or 11 that are occupied as classrooms right now.
I think one of the things that we talked about doing, and I think that this would help you, Beth, is actually touring the schools. And not just school committee, but inviting other town folks to be part of that. And certainly, as you said, Senator Montigny, is it Montigny?
Montigny.
Yeah, Montigny. And also Markey, because we think it's important for us all to get a real sense of what our buildings look like. And we also talked about visiting some neighboring school districts and seeing some of what the new buildings look like, what we could have or even what we should have. And that includes elementary schools, because we agree with you that the elementary schools also need a lot of attention. And I agree with you on the 21st century buildings.
And space.
And I
We
can
need
definitely
space.
see that, so. It's not one over the other. It's just, I think, going back to what Mr. Kiley said about being strategic in our planning, because I don't think it's one project over the other. It's just the strategic planning for the entire school community.
And what the community has the stomach for.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I see this plan that you've presented does affect the greatest number of students, gives the most benefit, because eventually all students will benefit from a new high school, and making this the middle school would increase the benefit.
And all students would benefit from being here as well.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
thank you.
I'll also add that a new high school would be the most expensive type of school to build,
Certainly.
Oh, yeah.
by far.
Mhm.
Oh, you got the air out of my tire. Stop. No,
I'm a
no, I
realist.
appreciate that. I think it's really important because it's so true. All of it is true. Going back to your goals, that not in any particular, but just, what is the goal, the long-term goal? It's just to support, appropriate, equitable learning environments for all students. We want to walk and chew gum at the same time and sort of do max capacity of what we can make an impact on. How do we, how should we proceed in terms of, do we come back to this
Yeah.
bring it in front of people often, with perhaps a little tightened up ABC options? Would that be helpful to Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Kiley, I mean, where's the town? And again, I'm making an assumption that this is per se brand new with the town. Have they started looking at things? I mean, I know there's talk out there about the wastewater treatment plant and such, but are they looking and saying, well, they've got a brand new police station, do we need a new town hall? Or what are they looking at?
Yeah, they're sort of in process too. Some of their projects would probably be ahead of us in terms of actual planning and design work and feasibility work. Like, they've done a fair amount of work for the recreation building, that recreation center. DPW has done some on wastewater treatment, which is certainly something that I think the community is going to have to tackle. So they have some projects that are a little more advanced than ours in terms of the actual planning work that's been done. But I think the goal, when you do long-term planning, if you can sort of strategically space things out so that you're paying for things and things are sort of coming off the tax rolls gradually, and, you know, space them out in a long-term plan, it might be that the wastewater treatment is the first thing that has to get done. And if it is, it is. But I think they're also at a point where it's not time to make those conclusions with that long-term planning group. It's time now to sort of feel out what all the projects are. So I think for us to identify things that we want to move forward to that group is critical. And like I said, part of our problem, so if you have a wastewater treatment plant that you know isn't functioning, okay, well, you need a new wastewater treatment plant. We have a bunch of buildings that are all going to be eventually unusable. And so we could attack them in just about any order and get it right if we actually do it. But, you know, really the only thing that I think could be wrong is not doing it.
Yeah.
So whatever order we focus on, and really, you know, Mrs. Amaral, you spoke about the goals. I mean, these need to be your goals.
Yeah.
You need to, I mean, these are suggestions, but, you know, you need to have a plan, and then we will do our best to implement, you know, based on your direction as a group, so.
Mr. Oliver, and then Mr.
I agree that we have no good situation here right now. I think the crux of the problem comes down to what is I think you had said it, what does the town have the stomach for? Because you look at, I just ran some quick numbers here, different projects. You look at the Westport Middle High School project, I don't know if this is the most up-to-date, but it came in around $97 million. But then, you know, you look at Monomoy down the Cape, that's 63 million. Obviously Durfee, much bigger, 263 million. I can tell you our new school in Bourne Intermediate School was 39.9 million. So I guess the question's gonna be, what does the town have the capacity for? Does the town right now have the capacity for 150 just ballparking, $150 million new high school? I guess I need some more information in.
Yeah.
And this is really just that. This is just an introduction to some of the discussion that we're having.
Right.
And so we've met once, and I think once in our subcommittee. So there's a lot more work to be done here. So this is really at the introductory stage, and we certainly, in speaking to what you said, Kathleen, we can go back and will go back with Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. And I know that Jim has a good idea of how that debt looks over time. And we'll be able to talk about that more specifically.
Great.
Mr. News.
Yeah, thank you, Cal. Mr. Kiley, for grins and giggles, what's the time frame on a new building, whether it be a high school, a middle school, elementary schools, you know, soup to nuts? I mean, and again, realizing we've got to get a town meeting vote and an election and such.
It would be multiple votes over a period of time. So our initial vote would be to apply to MSBA, at which time it would probably take 6 months, right, at least. If we were invited in, then we could begin feasibility work. After the feasibility work, then MSBA has to weigh in again as to our ability to move forward, and so do the groups in town, the different, your board and the select board, and town meeting, ultimately, because it requires funding, to vote to move the project forward again, beyond that initial stage. So realistically, I mean, you couldn't start a brand-new building in probably 3 years. That would be the soonest you could possibly begin the construction.
Yeah.
Um,
So
The window isn't currently open at MSBA
right,
either.
but
so-
it's, you know, I mean, it's, there's a process
Yeah.
from here
Yes, oh yeah, it would
out
be quite
type
a,
of deal, yeah.
and it would be lengthy.
Yeah.
So before we vote to submit to MSBA, do we have to have a tight project? Like, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna build this school on this property for this number of students. We don't have to have an architect or a plan yet, but we have to have,
You have to have a focus, yes. Mhm. You have to have a focus.
Just going back to sort of I think I know the answer to this, but projects aside, well, not projects aside, but would we not move forward in the way proposed with that building, you know, that specific scenario of building on the middle school? Are we bursting at the seams at the middle school, or would there be an opportunity to, regardless of how we move forward, to sort of reshape that middle school to be a 5 through 8? No.
No, we wouldn't
I
have
don't-
space.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're not bursting at the seams either, but we
But it
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
be
space for
optimal
that.
for student learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
and if we moved the middle school here with the 5th grade, would we just fit? Would we have a lot of extra room?
We would use the building about as we currently use it
Would be
for the high
4
school,
grades.
approximately.
Okay.
So it would be a good number of students for this building, an appropriate number of students for this building, if we were to do that. There are options too, to look at grade levels. I mean, there's a lot to, you know, this is a preliminary discussion, and there are several options to consider, but
So also, if we did a high school at the middle school site, you know, you say, well, we're hurting for parking there, we could put parking where the old school was, and the new school would go down in the fields, but then where are we gonna play?
yeah,
Mm,
I
right.
think
Where are
that's
the fields
important.
gonna
Well,
be?
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
part of
there's
the
a couple
problem.
of options on that site. For one, if you're going to do a major project like this, it would make a lot of sense to do a multi-purpose athletic field or set of fields, likely where the Quinn School, some of the Quinn School fields are now, just below the hill from the middle school. So I think you could, between the stadium and those fields, address that. There's also space for more fields. A number of years ago, we had done some work looking to consider the option of soccer, the DYSA complex, which is right next to here, moving to the Quinn School fields. There is room for fields that is currently undeveloped land at the Quinn School. Not to say that that would necessarily be the right way to go about it. I think probably with multi-purpose field space, you could make it work without having to go further into the woods. But there are some options there, for sure.
And so thinking of next steps, would it be helpful for us to sort of, reading the goals and preparing for the meeting, I like these goals personally, but I don't speak for the committee. Would it be helpful for us as a starting point to individually perhaps come up with our top 1 or 2 goals and for then additional, further discussion at an upcoming meeting that might help us move to that next step where we're thinking of option A, B, C.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, John?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just I think the goals as presented are perfect.
Yeah, they're
I
great.
don't, is that what you're referring to?
think they're great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any issue or concern with the goals as presented. I think, right in that order, number one, an effective and appropriate learning environment for all students. So followed by the rest of them. So I don't personally have any issue. I
Okay.
like those goals.
Okay.
I mean, is there always a possibility that we could come up with, something to add to it and, put out there for the rest of our colleagues to talk about? That's always a possibility, but I agree with Chris. This is perfect. Nice job.
So can I just add, maybe you're talking a bit about prioritization, and so looking at sort of, and I know there's a slide in there that has the projects that need to be done.
Yeah.
We know these projects need to be done, so maybe input from the committee about your own personal, sort of your opinion about what that prioritization should look like would help to inform, I think, the subcommittee as we come back to you with other options.
Yeah.
Well-
So good, Mr. Noon?
Yeah, I mean, as you look at that, list, I mean, yeah, first and foremost, this building's not going anywhere, so you gotta fix the roof.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
it's either that or we gotta increase the custodians' supply line item so they can have more buckets and mops, type of deal. Then you're gonna get into, okay, then between the middle school of Potter and DeMello School, what are you doing with those? Do you flip-flop and, are we doing an elementary or two elementary schools? And then getting into the middle school to move that type of deal. That's the thing there. Quick question that I have is that now, and I apologize, Jim, I should have asked you about this earlier, but it says current Dartmouth High School renovation. What needs to be done here?
Well,
Or,
remember, we're talking about a 40-year window.
okay,
So this building becomes 60 years old
okay,
within the cycle that we're talking about for long-term planning.
okay.
So, I
Didn't think
mean,
of that.
you're
Thank
going to
you.
have two roofs in that time. You're going to, the
Couple of
exist-
gym,
the
couple of
origi-
gym floors.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying additional renovation. I don't think that, but I do think it's going to need some attention.
Yep.
Within the time frame of we're currently seeing the fact that things are 20 years old in this building, and they're not built like they used to.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
used to
I-
be, and it's.
I didn't think of 40 years out, I apologize.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long time to think about.
Yeah.
But we'd appreciate any
110.
feedback that you have.
And you'll still
Still
be
be
on this
sitting here.
committee.
Want to come back to the next, continue this on the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we'll bring this back
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
committee next time.
Great.
And, you do have it on there on your next steps, really, what we're talking about, prioritization, and then,
Yep.
researching specific cost estimates, and then circling it back to that, how it fits into, the long-term planning of the town. Who we have to sell this to, whatever it is that we come up with. So we'll bring it back.
Great.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
such a great
Appreciate it.
overview
Yeah,
and
thank
and
you to the committee.
explanation.
I have another little capital item that we thought would kind of fall into this same category. So I provided you with a little information about this. So Mr. Nunes and I attended the Capital Improvement Planning Committee meeting on last Thursday, the 21st. My understanding is that the meeting was held primarily because the town had not included any of our projects on the draft town meeting warrant for October 17th. I had not been invited to a capital improvement planning meeting or anything at that point, other than this one last Thursday. The town administration indicated that excluding our projects was because we had received more money in our FY '24 operating budget than what they had projected. So, very productive meeting, though, I think. And Mr. Nunes, please feel free to jump in at any time. But the Capital Improvement Planning Committee offered a proposal for your consideration, I suppose, So what they had talked about, they recognized, I think, that, we can't not do projects on these schools. And they identified a few things that they would be willing to go out on a limb and support, even though they're not on that warrant, that draft warrant. And if the school committee were agree to support an amendment at town meeting, I'm going to tell you that the select board already voted the warrant, and they don't have another meeting in time to revise it. So if the school committee were agree to support an amendment at town meeting to use the full-day kindergarten stabilization fund to support our fire system upgrade request, and I provided you with a letter from Chief Aruda, District 3 Fire Chief, who Dr. Sabre McGuire and I met with, along with Chief Andrade from District 1, and both expressed some sense of urgency that we should address this fire safety project. So if we were to use the full-day kindergarten stabilization fund, which currently has $321,665.96 in it.
Can you repeat that?
$321,665.96. So if the school committee were to support that, then the capital committee would support roof repairs and technology infrastructure
Yeah, it was from Jeff.
totaling $620,000 from free cash. It's something to consider. The full-day kindergarten, I can give you some background. The full-day kindergarten stabilization fund was created and voted by town meeting in 2010. After the school district had made the decision to go to full-day kindergarten. We used to be half-day, and it was an effort to sort of create a fund that could remain in place just in case we got to a budget crisis in which one thought would be you go back to half-day kindergarten. After about 6 years, I recommended that we no longer contribute. So we were contributing $50,000 a year as a school department to that fund. No funds were allocated by any other entity. It was always school department funds from the operating budget at the conclusion of the school year. After about 6 years, it became obvious that going back to half-day kindergarten was never going to be an option. Really a crazy thought, to be honest. And we stopped contributing at that time. So it's earned some interest since then, but we're at $321,000. So really, it's something that you folks have to consider. There's some benefit to using those funds on one-time purchases as opposed to recurring costs. However, we did have a discussion at our last budget challenge in the spring that we could use some of those funds to sort of stem the tide and get us through a budget crisis, including one that is coming soon. So if we use the funds for this, then we won't have them for that. But again, it's one-time funds. It's not something, it would only be a one-year sort of stopgap measure. So really the projects that we're talking about, the fire system upgrades we've had on our capital improvement planning list for a number of years.
What buildings do those?
Well, ultimately, it's going to be all of the buildings.
Right.
We would likely start with Potter and DeMello, and maybe even just one of them, because we probably won't have money to do more than one. But we would start with design work. It would take a while. It's going to be, designing a new fire safety system, essentially, in the schools.
So I guess my question to you, Mr. Kiley, would be this $250,000, what do you see for the time frame? Is, if, say we get the money in fall town meeting,
We'd procure design as soon as, you know, over the next 2 months.
right, when do you see an install even happening?
Oh, not before the summer.
So I guess that leads me to my next question. Is there any harm in starting the design? Do we have money to start the design work and then just put it on the Springtown meeting, go out?
We don't have any money allocated to this project.
Okay.
So.
Mr. Davis.
I c-
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm just curious, why wasn't this at all discussed? A little bit, why did, from the town side, our capital requests?
I think because, so what was relayed to us was, it was because we received more money in our FY '28 operating budget.
Was this discussed
allotment.
publicly in public session? Do you know?
Not with me, but my understanding is that was the explanation that was given to the boards. So I think Finance Committee and Select Board, I think, but I haven't watched those meetings to know that that was, in fact, but I believe that that's what
I
the
can't say I'm too
explanation was.
thrilled with the direction that the town's deciding to take with the school department. I'm certainly concerned, for sure.
I would say that the idea that was mentioned earlier of doing tours of the schools and inviting FinCom to join us, and so they can see what we are looking at. I don't have a problem with using the full K funds. But at the same time, I think right now we have to start talking with the town about how we are going to fund our ongoing issues, teacher salaries, healthcare, regular maintenance. And if we can't start talking to them about that now, then I don't think it's wise to use those funds.
Well, in terms of our operating budget, I'm currently working on it and hope to have something for you pretty soon as to where we are.
We're hoping for a preliminary budget presentation in October.
Yeah. It's much earlier than normal, so it's
But
taken
that's
some.
good.
Right, right. It's taken some juggling to pull that off, but I'm working on that, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it was an interesting meeting, to say the least. It's obvious they didn't want to give us any money. Okay. I do thank, and, you know, a thank you to the Capital Improvement Committee, you know, the members that were there, and, you know, Terry and Pippi, I believe is it, from the FinCom, who supported what we needed, type of deal. The problem I have here is, you know, this is gonna, you're not gonna be doing repairs, so here we go. You know, you talk about kicking the proverbial can down the road, here we go. Because we're just talking about our buildings and the maintenance and the age and what they need and such. And, you know, we've been very fortunate that the town has supported us and given us some money over the years to do things, roofs and windows and such. I know, and again, I think I've said this before, when Tim Cahill was treasurer and he came here and he walked through the Quinn school and went, wow, this is in great shape. And, you know, when he gave us the check for the windows and said, what do you need? And we went, a roof. And he went, we've got money. And in 6 weeks, we put an article at town meeting to get a new roof on the Quinn school. So, you know, thank you, that was great. Using, and I did mention this to Mr. Carrero and Mr. McGinnis, Mr. Carrero being the Finance Director, Treasurer, Collector. You know, we have plans to use that 300,000 full-day kindergarten money, which was our money that we turned back to the town, that became part of free cash, that then got appropriated into that stabilization fund. So, you know, we gave back 50 grand to put it in there, type of deal. You know, I says, you know, we've talked about using that to help us over the cliff, you know, not fall as far off the cliff next year. And was like, well, you know, you're using one-time money. I said, I know what, you know, I know we're doing that, but that's, you know, that was on the agenda type of deal. I also said to them that they better talk to Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Carrero, that they better talk to Mr. Savastano and to Melissa Haskell, Mr. Savastano, who's town council, and, you know, Ms. Haskell, who's the town clerk, about making sure how this this amendment has to be worded, only because of all the initial warrant, you know, motions that they make. You know, that's how we got the money from the reserve, from the FinCom, from the reserve fund, and they wanted to use the school stabilization fund, but they couldn't because of the way the motions are read at the beginning. So they've got to make sure they've got their ducks in a row with those motions. But I think, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen, you know, we've got to do the fire system. You know, they're going to give us the roof and technology because that all changes on a daily basis. The roof here, you know, again, we just talked about that. So, I mean, I'm good with taking the $250 out of the full-day kindergarten. You know, that'll leave us, you know, $71,000 for next year to tackle, you know,
Not much.
a couple of mops and buckets.
Yeah. I mean, and what else can we do? I mean, we're sort of like, we're kind of strapped, and
We're between a rock and a hard place.
yeah, and I think it really should be mentioned. I don't, you know, he said, she said. I don't want to like go back and say, well, you know, keep talking about. But the reality is, we didn't get more than we asked for. It was a mathematical calculation error on the part of the town that left us under what we asked for. And so what we got at town meeting, based on Mr. Noon's amendment proposal, was to get us back at square one. And so, as my colleague, Mr. Oliver, stated, it's really, well, and I'll say it's disheartening. It's frustrating. It appears that the town does not have in its purview the school department as a priority, and it doesn't sit well, and you know, it makes you wonder. I'm going to steal some thoughts from you. Is you got to figure out what you want as a town. We're a school department. We're educating. We're employing a large number of folks. We just had new teachers stepping here who were students in this district, who have been raised here, have grown up here, and want to teach here, want to move here, probably want to buy homes here, want to purchase goods here, want to pay taxes here. And that is, in essence, what a community is about. And so when you go to a select board and you vote on something and you don't even regard the needs of a school department, which is a funding for your taxes, for your longevity, for the people that want to stay here and be here and grow here and visit here, go to the beach here. And you can't, you know, put the money to what you want the outcome to be of people visiting and wanting to say good things? Or do you not want to be a community that has young families moving in? Do you not want to be a community that welcomes, that invests in the future of this country? It doesn't seem like they want that for our community, and it's upsetting. And so,
Well said, Madam
Well
Chair.
said.
thank you. It's you know, it's frustrating. So I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, thank you for giving us things to think about. And this, I don't necessarily have a problem, but again, it goes back to, well, what are we going to do? We have to sort of do this because you've got the fire chiefs coming to you to say that this is, it's urgent.
Yep.
And we've got 2 schools we'll start with, but maybe we'll just do one. How do you prioritize that?
Yep.
Let's do Potter. Let's wait on DeMello, see what happens. Now, I mean, this is,
How long,
go ahead.
how long have the fire systems been on the CIP?
A number of years.
And they just keep moving them
A
up?
number of years, yeah.
Okay.
And this is just the first small component in a series of requests. If you look further down the 5-year capital plan, you'll see it every year.
Every year.
Because we know this is just just breaking the surface of what we're going to need to do with those systems. I guess what I would say is that while you, as a committee, I don't think vote on this transaction, because town meeting is the body that has to vote to move the money from one place to the other. I do think it would be important to have the committee's approval so that the other boards that are acting on this understand where the committee stands on this. I couldn't agree with you more, Mrs. Amaral, in terms of this should not be this. We should have funding to repair the fire systems. Come on, this is a silly discussion about what pocket we're going to take this out of. I mean, if you said no, what's the liability on the town,
It would be terrible.
Yeah, and obviously we wouldn't do that because we care about kids and we're going to, do the right thing as best we can, but it's only going to be part of the right thing. It's not going to be the right thing. So, but anyway, I do think it's important that you folks, I think, if you're in agreement, take a vote to support that.
Madam Chair. I'm inclined to vote no. Let the fire chief put us in non-compliance and then go for a reserve fund transfer. I do not like the way this went down. That's
No, I don't either.
for the sake of the kids,
Yeah.
for the sake of our students, I'm voting yes.
Yeah,
But that's what I would love to do.
yeah.
I do think that, and you have this letter in your packet from the fire chief, and I think it's important just to point out that, what was said was, due to the lack of smoke detection and automatic closing doors, any fire, regardless of its size, has the potential to spread smoke and toxic gases throughout the building. And that's an alarming statement that we should all be concerned about.
Agreed.
That is the
Agreed.
safety. Truly, keeping our students and our staff safe has got to be a priority and not something we can bargain over.
Agreed. That is what my vote is on tonight, not about the politics that are going on in this town right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should make,
Okay.
go ahead, Mr. News.
No, I was just going to say, we should make a motion to,
Mhm.
so that, because we don't meet till the 16th, town meeting's the 17th, but if we vote on this tonight, it gives Dr. Saber McGuire and Mr. Kiley an opportunity to go to the town fathers and such and say, here's what got approved.
Yeah.
Here's what the school committee voted on.
Agreed.
So,
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we appropriate, that we request town meeting to appropriate $250,000 from our full-day kindergarten for the fire system upgrade, and, was it 660?
620,000?
620,000, yeah, my math is off, I can't add. $620,000 from free cash or surplus revenue for the purpose of roofing repairs and technology, infrastructure, security, and improvements.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Kyler, good job last week.
Great. Okay, so, where am I? Okay, So I'll take the next item, which is the
Were you going to,
school committee rep for.
for the Town Charter Review
Yeah.
Committee?
Mm-hmm.
And so what we learned is that Mary Waite is stepping down from her position as the school committee's representative to Town Charter Commission, and we do need a replacement. I think this was discussed at the last committee meeting, so hopefully people have had a chance to think about it. We last learned that the committee didn't have a set meeting schedule, but it seems as if that there are some set dates, and there already has been one. Actually, is it Thursday, September 21st? It's just last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so just last week. And the meetings are held via Zoom. And then Heidi Brooks also added more clarity and said that they're monthly meetings and they're not on Monday or Wednesdays. But we're hoping to have somebody in place, hopefully at the conclusion of this meeting. So hopefully you've had a chance to think about who might want to be that representative.
Anyone?
So I have the time.
Yes, thank you.
So do we have to make an official vote? Okay. I would entertain a motion that we nominate Beth Coughlin to
I'm a little
serve.
motion guy.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, make a motion that we appoint Elizabeth Coughlin to the Charter Review Committee
I'll second that.
Great.
to replace Mary Waite.
All right. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mary,
All
for
in
all you
favor?
did on that.
Yeah,
Go
agreed.
ahead. Yeah. Thank you.
You're going to be great, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you for that. And back
All
to
right,
you, Dr.
so
Saban
now
McGuire.
I am going to talk a little bit, we're going to switch gears a little bit, which I think might be a good thing right now.
Yeah, we need it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling hot.
Oh, thank you. So down, let's see if I did it right. So I just wanted the opportunity to discuss with you some of what has come out of the entry planning process that I've discussed with you in some of our prior meetings. And this next piece is really around the goal setting of the superintendent, which is all part of the entry planning process, as you could have probably seen in phase 1 and 2. But the goal really is to collaborate with the Dartmouth School Committee, obviously, to develop evaluation goals. And they do, I think, need to be based in core values, not only mine, but also the Dartmouth Public Schools, and in really syncing those with Dartmouth's vision and mission and the short-term needs of the district, because it is going to take us some time through this entry planning process to do some long-term planning. So the goal here, and I think I know I've said it before, is really about information gathering. But at the same time, I want you to know that these goals are just meant to serve as a starting point for the evaluation process, and I expect that through other school committee meetings, and I know there'll be a subcommittee that I have an opportunity to meet with to not only look at these goals, but also to develop goals with the committee. And so really to be successful in attainment of these goals, it's really about depending, really when I say heavily, I mean heavily on collaboration among the principals in the school district, central office leaders, and the full district leadership team. And that has been one of my primary goals in the past few months. But I do expect as the entry planning process continues, that more and more voices are going to become part of the first year and thinking about the timetable for the work. And then at the same time, still gaining momentum, because you start the first few months and you have that, energy that you bring into a new position, and then real school starts, right? And there are real kids, and there are challenges just as we've had to contend with here this evening. But the work is still there, and we need to continue the momentum and pushing the school district forward. So what I'm proposing is not, again, anything creative or unique. I've taken this right from the new superintendent induction program. When you hear "don't try to reinvent the wheel," I think that's really good advice sometimes. And so for my first goal, it's really about effective entry and direction setting. And so by the end of, it seems like forever, and I know I said this before, but by late spring. It is our intention to have broad recognition by key stakeholder groups about the district's most critical needs. And we are doing lots of information gathering right now. That is absolutely our purpose at this point in the school year. And to really have a widely understood process to identify the strategies and goals that address those needs most effectively, and how we're going to have measures that assess our progress. I know Kathleen's been in my office, and now she knows that I have the phases of my entry plan up on the board, and it's not a check the box, but because everything that we do at this point is really about process. It's not just about getting something done. And then for goal 2, I talked about this just a minute ago, and that's about maintaining momentum during transition. So we need to keep moving forward. The district didn't stop because you have a new superintendent. The district didn't stop because we have budget challenges. The district doesn't stop, right? The needs of the students and our faculty are still there. And so keeping that momentum moving forward is something that that has to be our primary purpose as we contend with some of the real challenges that we're facing. And then finally, as I said, I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel. Goal 3 is really about my professional practice goal, which is to participate in the new superintendent induction program. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next section where I'm doing my superintendent update and kind of what I've been doing with that group. But that through the new superintendent induction program, there's a true focus on developing strategy, how you look at data. So it's not just gathering data, but how you analyze it and how you look at instructional leadership skills, and throughout the entire first year of your participation in the new superintendent induction program. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that during my superintendent update. And I think that was one of the commitments that I made to you, that I would keep you informed as to my progress and sort of what my takeaways are as I participate in this program. And so it's really simple, 3 goals. So I'm hoping that those goals are acceptable to you. I'm not asking for a vote or anything here this evening. I just wanted to start the process so that when we meet in our subcommittee, we have sort of a foundation to work off of.
Great. Anyone have anything?
Perfect.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you for sharing with us.
Nice.
And for keeping us informed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Never mind.
Excellent. Now for superintendent's
Now it's still me?
update. It's
Still
still
you.
you.
Although Jim did a lot tonight. Right. So, again, the way that I have organized my reports, I hope that you're noticing, is kind of like into different sections, starting with teaching and learning. And so I really want to be able to capture what September's been like. And I've been able to do that a bit in some of our prior meetings. But I have to say this, and I know it sounds, cliche, but I can't believe September's almost over. And I remember saying to you that this year's going to go by in the blink of an eye, and I can certainly say that that's been my experience, at least with the month of September. But a couple of important things that I think you should hear about. The Dartmouth Education Association now awarded several grants in the district. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it on DCTV. I think they released it today. But those grants are designed to support teachers and students, and they're really about focusing on some of the creative endeavors that students are working for. I love that Ben just walked out because he was one of the students who actually received that award just last week. And so, right, so that was right. So he came out and spoke. And so it was really about how that award is, that monetary award is helping to support the television studio here, and Ben got up and spoke, so it was really fun to watch. So the students here are truly involved in what the adults here are trying to accomplish. They're drawing the students into that work. So again, that was under the direction of Mr. Parati, and again, it wasn't just Ben, Mason got up there as well. But there were 14 grants awarded for a total of $14,209 $1,058.91. And so again, that was all through the Dartmouth Education Foundation. It makes a big deal, makes a big difference for students and teachers. So I know you're also aware that the MCAS results have been publicly released, and we are still in the process of analyzing the data. However, I think it's important to let you know that we're pleased with our initial data. We're optimistic about our students' post-pandemic rise in achievement. We still realize we have a ways to go. I thought, again, Dartmouth Week did a great job actually putting some of the data into their most recent publication, and we are going to be digging deeper into that data in the coming weeks. We've definitely seen impressive areas of growth in Dartmouth, and we are still above the state average in most areas. We have some focus. We have to have some focus on our science scores, but we're getting there, and we recognize that. And again, that's what I mean by gaining momentum. We're seeing these, we're looking at this data, and now we have to analyze it in a way that we can make decisions to continue to support student learning in our schools, because ultimately that's why we exist. And so, again, we're expecting that we'll be receiving the student reports this coming Friday. So then we'll have to sort of cull through them, make sure the right schools get the right reports. And from there, we'll distribute them to the schools. The schools will then have to do the same and make sure the right reports get to the right students. And then they'll be in envelopes, and we'll be sending those home. We're hoping that those reports will go home with students on Tuesday, October 10th. So families can start to look for those results on or about October 10th. And then you can count on us coming back to you and presenting a comprehensive overview of our district and school-based results at the November 6th school committee meeting. Last Monday, my coach, Dr. Maureen LaCroix, who you met earlier in the school year, she visited the district with me. We were able to visit the middle school. We visited the Quinn school. We visited the high school. I'm pleased to share she was incredibly impressed by the school leaders in our building. She was impressed by the educators. And of course, most importantly, she was impressed by the Dartmouth students. I myself am looking forward to spending more time in classrooms in the Dartmouth schools. I've been in schools plenty, but as the year goes on, it's my hope to spend more time in classrooms and really looking at and spending time engaged in what's happening in terms of instruction and student learning. So on Tuesday, I attended the new superintendent induction. So she was here on Monday. On Tuesday, I was in Marlborough with her. And again, we spent time in our cohort groups, and I think it's important for you to know that that really gives me as a superintendent an opportunity not only to connect with other new superintendents, which I think is really incredibly important in terms of networking, but also quite a few of them are area superintendents. And so that's helpful to me. I think I mentioned at the last meeting that we have a superintendent thread, a text message. Chris, I think your superintendent from Bourne is on that thread. And so that's important. That networking piece is critical. And although she's not a new superintendent, I was also with her at the roundtable meeting. So again, those opportunities to connect with other superintendents and assistant superintendents are critically important. I also wanted to mention that you've probably read that the State Board of Education voted to approve the revised health and sexual education standards. I mentioned that in my Friday update. I just want to mention to families and others who might have some questions about that is that it's important to note that the standards have not been revised since 1999. So it was time for the standards to be revised. There's no question about that. Along with our educators, families, and yourselves as school committee members, we need to examine our curriculum and identify where there may be gaps and where we may need to look at our curriculum and align it with the revised standards. That being said, this process will be transparent, efforts will be shared with the committee and with the public. I know that there have been some concern over the revised standards, and at this point, we really didn't know what they are. So now we have them in hand, and now as a community, we need to work together to see what works in this community for the students and families of Dartmouth. So there's that. As far as personnel and HR, as far as hiring, I am really pleased to announce that we have offered a contract to a new Assistant Director of Student Support Services. I'm surprised that, that Laurie Denicio isn't standing up, hooping and hollering, but we're excited. Her name is Kimberly Redlawn, and she will be joining us within the next few months. She's currently with the Middleborough Public Schools. Her superintendent has been very gracious. We certainly had contact about offering her a position, and she's thrilled for her. And from all we have heard is that Kimberly's going to be a welcome addition to the Dartmouth Public Schools. She'll be working in Middleborough to transition a new person into her position. So we're not quite sure of the timeline, but we're expecting it to be within the next, at the most, 60 days, and we're hoping for sooner than that. But we will be inviting her to a future meeting and introducing her to all of you. Food services, you saw what they put on for us tonight. We are so excited to say that all of those positions are filled, and I think that Kate would agree that that's been something that has been what seemed like a major challenge, and yet we've been able to do that. So we, of course, are continuing to seek ESPs at all levels. I mean, that is just something that's going to be ongoing. But if you know anyone, or if anyone's listening and knows anyone that's interested in an ESP position, as I said at the last meeting, please encourage them to apply. And again, I thank Kate for her work on this. So, take a deep breath and talk about start of the school, now in full swing. So this is where I like to talk a little bit about climate and culture and all the fun things that are going on in the Dartmouth Public Schools. And starting with sports, right? So that's been a big deal. We've had a really successful start to the school year. I'm guessing it's because you have a new superintendent and I brought the sports team in flock. I'll ride that one for as long as I can. But I think that what I stole from borrowed from Mr. Christofulio's Monday Minute is that the boys soccer team had a little bit of a rough start, but they've won their last 2 games, and so we're excited to see that they seem to be turning a corner, and it's a young team and apparently a team to watch. Field hockey, football, girls cross country, and golf all remain undefeated. So that is exciting, and I look forward to getting out and seeing some more of those teams in action. We have an engineering teacher. His name is Jeff Martin, and his classroom students have set up and programmed the new scorers table, which is really incredible when you think about it. We're engaging our students, and it sounds like it's comparable to coding, and for all intent and purposes, it sounds like it's quite a professional scorers table. And so also super excited, we're partnering with the Dartmouth Council on Aging, and we're considering ways to unite our seniors with our school community. And one of the ways that we're doing that is through Amy DiPietro and Andy Christofolia. They're working together for our first ever Celebrate Our Seniors Night, which we're hoping is going to be October 13th. And that will involve a recognition for our seniors at halftime. So that's still in the planning phase. What I think is important about that is that we're working closely with not only the football and the sports teams, but everybody involved in planning for what I'm going to say is Spirit Night, but I don't think that's what we call it here.
Homecoming.
What is it?
Is it homecoming?
No,
I
it's
don't know.
when the students all, what do we call a high school when you all dress up, red, white, and blue, the student section?
Is it pep rally?
No.
They have Spirit.
Yeah, it could be just Spirit.
Yeah, that's what we call it.
Oh, it's a theme night, thank you. So what we're looking to do is to connect that with something that's important to the community. So if you think about the first night, which I loved, all the students were dressed up in red, white, and blue. It was really fantastic. Did you dress up in red, white, and blue? Oh, you were probably on the, you were in the band, yeah. You couldn't. You have to be all business all the time, right? Right. But that was really fun to see, but you could see, you know, again, that's the spirit of celebrating your country. And so that's what we're working toward with our students, and we want their input on doing that. And then you have middle school. Middle school's launching its after-school program beginning October 12th. I do have the flyer here for anyone's interested. Apparently there is going to be a group for Taylor Swift fans, so I might see if I can get in on that, because I've decided that I am finally a Swiftie, and I did see her in the box at the Kansas City Chiefs game, and it's probably the only reason I watched that game. Audra did give me a bracelet for You did? Oh. Oh, I saw that today. I was like, oh, I want to be. I know. I know. I think it is going, or the movies, right? So you can't even get a movie ticket. But yeah, there she was in the box sitting next to Trevor Kelsey's mother yesterday. I saw that. I watched the game. I'm not a big Kansas City fan, though. I just want to say that. So again, I think those things are important, though, right? And you know there are really great things happening in your school district. I had already mentioned that my goal is to meet with each school's family organization. I mentioned the PTO at the Potter, truly impressed. It was a fantastic turnout. There's lots of great things going on. I think tomorrow night I'll be at the DeMello/Cushman, and I'm looking forward to getting into all of the schools to be able to do that. So my goal is to have a superintendent pack, though, at the end of this. It's to go to each superintendent and each pack, and to talk about that superintendent pack that I hope to have in place by the first of the year. That would be representative of all of the schools in the school district. And that's all I have for you. Phew.
Fantastic.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
One quick question, Madam Chair, Dr. Sabo McGuire. What scorer's table? Is that the one that's in the gym
Yes.
that they use
Yep.
here, like for the volleyball
Right.
and basketball
Apparently
games?
that's been
Okay.
quite upgraded and is professional.
Perfect.
I'll have to
Beautiful.
go and take a look at it myself. I haven't seen it yet.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments on the report?
No, I'm good.
And so, report of the chair. All I have two things. Speaking of tour of the district, the Special Ed Parent Advisory Council will be meeting on Tuesday, October 10th. Oh my goodness, we're at what school are we at? Quinn. We're at Quinn for our first meeting, and we're going to have a meet and greet with Lori Dionisio and Dr. June Saba McGuire. And then we're going to follow up after the meet and greet. We're going to get right into the nitty gritty and do an abridged version of our basic rights in special education. So I encourage anyone who is interested to stop by Quinn. There'll be refreshments, and we meet at 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And then the other thing is happening after we meet next, but I'm just bringing it up because I got the email today. I was excited that Dartmouth High School is, I have an 8th grader, so 7th and 8th graders, Dartmouth High School is holding their showcase on October 24th at 5:30, so from 5:30 to 7, which is always an exciting time to tour the schools and talk to department heads and learn about the life of the school. And so I'm looking forward to that on October 24th. But with that said, my colleagues, Mr. Nunes.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. There is a football game Friday night against Apponequet. We're 3-0. Hopefully we can be 4-0 type of deal. And then busy weekend for the band. We've got our home show Saturday night starting at 6 o'clock. Admissions are $15. This is per U.S. bands. $15 for adults and $10 for students and seniors. It starts at 6 o'clock. We're on somewhere around 8:45. Ward's right after type of deal. And then Sunday afternoon at the Bedford High School, we've got the Nesbo. So Annabelle has a busy weekend type of deal. That one starts at noontime, and there's only 8 bands, so we're on at 1:30, something of that nature. And that's at the what used to be the Keith School, but the Andre McCoy Stadium, the artificial turf there. And then October 14th, we've got our NESBA show, and that starts at 5 o'clock. And we're on at 8 that night, so
Thank you.
that's what's going on. That's all I
Anyone else have any updates?
Thank you.
I got nothing.
No? Well, our next regularly scheduled meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 16th at 6 p.m. here at Dartmouth High School in the Library Media Center. And with that, I will,
Need a motion for
mo-
executive? I'll make,
yes.
Madam Chair, make a
Please do.
motion that we adjourn to executive session for the discussion on non-union personnel positions and not return to open session.
So moved.
Second. Yeah.
okay, any
Roll call.
discussion? A roll call.
Kathleen Amaral?
Yes.
Chris Oliver?
Yes.
Elizabeth Coughlin?
Here.
John Nunes?
Yes.
Great. We're adjourned. Thank
Good
you.
job.